All right, so Thanksgiving, it's almost here. Time for family, food, and, well, let's be honest, sometimes a little bit of stress.
Yeah.
But fear not, listeners, because this deep dive is going to be all about, well, arming you with the best strategies to not just survive, but really thrive this Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
And we're doing it courtesy of 10 survival tips for Thanksgiving family gatherings from Love to Know.
Yeah, it's a good one. This article is basically like a witty survival guide. It's good for navigating all those tricky family dynamics, those little awkward moments, the things that tend to surface around the gravy boat.
Oh, I hear you. And speaking of gravy boats, tip number one, like as soon as I saw this, it really caught my eye. Take a pass on the cocktails.
Yeah.
Are they serious? Thanksgiving without like a festive cocktail?
Right.
Really?
It might sound kind of shocking at first, but honestly, there's some real wisdom in there. Think about it, right? Alcohol, it lowers inhibitions.
It does.
And while that might seem, fun and festive in the beginning, it can really impair your judgment, your impulse control a little. And suddenly that debate with your uncle about politics is seeming like a really fantastic idea.
Oh, tell me about it. Last Thanksgiving, after one too many glasses of spiked cider, I may or may not have gotten into a heated discussion about, get this, the proper way to roast a turkey.
Oh, no.
And let's just say my aunt, self-proclaimed queen of turkey roasting, was not impressed.
Yeah, you see, that's exactly why that strategic sobriety is so crucial. You really want to be present, right? You want to be in control of your responses, especially when all those sensitive topics come up. Like Thanksgiving, it's about emotional connection, not emotional landmines.
Yeah, no, you've convinced me. I'm rethinking my drink strategy this year. And speaking of strategy, the article also talks about being prepared to deflect those awkward questions that always seem to come up.
Yeah.
The classics like, when are you getting married? Or, so how's that job search going? They even suggest, get this, having some pre-written responses handy. Is that being too rehearsed?
I think, well, it's a fine line between like prepared and robotic.
Right.
A better way to think about it is to think about it as cognitive reframing, which I know sounds very fancy, but it just means you can shift the focus of a conversation. So instead of dreading those questions, you have a little mental plan for how you'll just, gracefully redirect.
Okay, so be prepared to pivot. So instead of launching into my 5-year plan when my Aunt Linda asks about my non-existent love life, I could ask her about her recent trip to Italy, or even better, compliment her earrings.
Exactly. People love to talk about themselves, their interests. It's like a subtle way to kind of steer the conversation in a different direction towards safer waters while still showing, you're interested genuinely. It's like a conversational magic trick.
Right. Like it. It's funny how we forget that sometimes. Like just showing a little genuine interest can totally change things in those kind of situations.
Yeah.
But let's say despite our best efforts, our best sparkling conversation, our best deflection, we need a little breather.
Sure.
The article has some pretty intriguing ideas for that too, right?
Absolutely. And this is where things get really interesting. They suggest these seemingly simple little actions like put the game on or spend quality time with the kids or even make yourself useful. But they're not just distractions. They're like, strategic retreats disguised as just everyday things.
Strategic retreats.
Yes.
I like that.
Right.
Like deploying a smoke bomb to get away from a conversational ambush.
Yeah.
So instead of getting into a big debate about, the correct way to enjoy fruitcake, I could just offer to wrangle the kids for a game of tag.
Exactly. You're still there, you're present, you're part of it, but you've created some distance, you've given yourself a little chance to kind of recharge a little bit. And those activities, they provide these natural buffers for conversation. So, you can engage, but on your own terms.
Okay, so it's like that oxygen mask on an airplane.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself first. Okay, this is making so much more sense to me now. I'm already feeling better about Thanksgiving just thinking about these little strategies.
Yeah, that's the power of a little planning, right?
Right.
And speaking of which, the article doesn't stop there. It also really emphasizes how important self-care is in all this.
Oh, yeah. I was super intrigued by those tips like give them something to talk about, dress for success, share the joy. I mean, those all feel really proactive, like you're sort of taking control,
Yeah, exactly. So instead of feeling like you're, at the mercy of whatever conversation might be thrown at you, you can you can come prepared, right? So you've got these engaging topics, you're radiating confidence thanks to your amazing outfit. Maybe you even, brought in some backup.
I was just going to say, bringing a friend, that is genius.
Yeah,
It's like having a co-pilot
absolutely.
to
Yeah.
navigate, all the potential turbulence of family dynamics, and you can give each other like little looks across the room
Yes.
or like swoop in with a perfectly timed distraction if needed.
Absolutely. And honestly, sharing those moments, those potentially awkward moments with a friend, it can actually like diffuse the tension and they just become funny stories later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Misery loves company, but so does laughter.
It's funny because sometimes even just like thinking about, you know, potential for awkwardness
Yeah.
can be more stressful than the actual event itself,
Right.
which I guess that brings us to the final tip from this article, and it's a good one. Have an exit strategy. They actually call it like extricating yourself from the festivities,
Right.
which, okay, a little dramatic,
Yeah.
but honestly, sometimes you need a plan.
I think it's actually kind of brilliant. It's not about being rude or anything like that. It's about, just setting some healthy boundaries. I think having that plan, that exit strategy in your back pocket, it can actually lower your anxiety and help you be more present while you're there because you have a way out.
It's like a little escape hatch,
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
in case,
Yeah.
just in case things get a little too intense.
Yeah.
So, instead of getting to that point where I'm like whispering to my partner under the table, please, for the love of pumpkin pie, can we go now? I can gracefully make my exit.
Yes, yes, exactly. And the article actually has some really clever ideas about how to do this. So you could offer to drive, an elderly relative home or maybe volunteer to run some kind of errand after dinner.
Right.
And they're so smart because it's actually, it's thoughtful, it's helpful.
So instead of faking a sudden illness
Exactly.
or like, making a big dramatic scene,
Yeah.
I could just offer to pick up my Aunt Mildred's prescription.
There you go.
Okay, I like it. For a guide to just surviving Thanksgiving, this article is surprisingly, like, heartwarming.
It is. It is.
Like,
Yeah.
they actually want us to enjoy it
Yes.
and the connections and stuff.
I think so too. It's a good reminder that, yeah, even with all the little quirks, the chaos, Thanksgiving is really about, celebrating those family bonds.
Beautifully said. And, with a little planning, a little humor, I think we can all navigate those Thanksgiving gatherings with a little more grace
I think so too.
and maybe even have some fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, this was great. Thanks for diving into all these Thanksgiving survival tips with me.
Oh, it was my pleasure, truly. And to all of you listening, have a very happy, delicious, and dare I say, drama-free Thanksgiving.
That sounds good to me.